The morning sun cast long shadows across Maple Grove Park, transforming the playground equipment into a maze of light and darkness that 7-year-old Emma navigated with practiced ease. Her red sneakers squeaked against the dew-dampened swings as she pumped her legs, sending herself higher into the crisp October air. The park was nearly empty at this early hour, save for the occasional jogger and the old man who fed pigeons by the fountain. From his position beneath the towering oak tree, Rex watched with unwavering attention. The German shepherd's golden eyes tracked Emma's every movement, his ears alert to sounds that escaped human perception. To casual observers, he appeared to be simply enjoying the morning warmth. But Rex was working. He had appointed himself Emma's guardian 2 months ago, when the Hartwell family moved to the house adjacent to the park, and he took his responsibility, with the gravity of a sworn oath. Mrs. Hartwell had initially worried about her daughter's fascination with the large dog who seemed to appear whenever Emma played outside. But Rex had proven himself harmless, even beneficial. He'd guided Emma away from a wasp nest, prevented her from chasing her ball into the street, and somehow always positioned himself between her and strangers who lingered too long near the playground. The neighborhood had embraced him as their unofficial mascot, though no one knew where he came from or where he disappeared to each evening. Emma's laughter rang across the park as she attempted to jump from the swing at its highest point. Rex's muscles tensed, ready to spring into action, but she landed safely in the soft sand, rolling dramatically before jumping up with arms raised in victory. She spotted Rex and waved enthusiastically, her gap-toothed grin infectious even from a distance. "Rex, did you see that? I flew like a superhero." The dog's tail wagged once, his version of applause, and Emma bounded toward him, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. School didn't start for another hour, but she liked coming to the park early, especially when Rex was there. He made her feel brave and important, like she had her own personal protector watching over her adventures. As Emma approached, Rex caught a scent that made his hackles rise almost imperceptibly. It was subtle, mixed with the autumn air and morning coffee from the nearby cafe, but it carried something wrong, anticipation tinged with malevolent intent. His nose worked carefully, sorting through the layers of information the wind provided. There was someone new in the park, someone who didn't belong to the rhythm of morning joggers and dog walkers. Emma dropped to her knees beside Rex, wrapping her small arms around his massive neck. "You're the best dog in the whole world," she whispered into his fur. "I wish you could come home with me." Rex accepted her embrace while his senses remained hyper-alert. A figure sat on a bench across the park, seemingly absorbed in a newspaper, but the man's eyes repeatedly flicked toward Emma. He'd been there yesterday too, Rex remembered, and the day before. The pattern was wrong. Regular park visitors established routines, but this man's behavior followed a different rhythm, one centered entirely around Emma's presence. The church bells chimed 7:30, and Emma reluctantly pulled away from Rex. "I have to go home for breakfast soon," she sighed. "But I'll come back after school, okay?" Rex remained motionless except for his eyes, which never left the figure on the bench. The man folded his newspaper with deliberate slowness, and Rex noted how his gaze lingered on Emma's retreating form as she skipped back toward the swings. Every instinct Rex possessed screamed danger, though he couldn't yet identify its exact nature. As Emma played, oblivious to the undercurrent of tension, Rex began to formulate a plan. He would watch closer, position himself more strategically, and ensure that whatever threat lurked in the shadows would have to go through him first. The bond between protector and protected had been forged in something deeper than mere affection. It was a covenant written in loyalty and sealed with an unspoken promise. The morning continued its peaceful facade, but Rex knew that storms often arrived disguised. The following Tuesday brought an unusual warmth to the October afternoon, drawing more families to Maple Grove Park than Emma had seen in weeks. She sat cross-legged in the grass beside Rex, carefully braiding dandelion stems while recounting the drama of her second-grade classroom. "And then Marcus said my drawing looked like a potato with legs, but I told him it was clearly a horse," Emma explained with the serious indignation only a 7-year-old could muster. "You would know it was a horse, wouldn't you, Rex?" Rex's Attention was divided between Emma's animated storytelling and the perimeter of the park. The man with the newspaper had returned, this time accompanied by a woman with short blonde hair who kept checking her phone. They'd positioned themselves at different locations, he near the basketball court, she by the parking area, but their synchronized glances toward Emma revealed their shared purpose. Emma had begun to unconsciously mirror Rex's protective instincts over the past weeks. She'd started sitting closer to him, touching his fur when strangers approached and following his lead when he guided her away from certain areas of the park. Their bond had deepened beyond simple companionship into something resembling telepathy. "My mom says you're probably someone's dog who got lost," Emma continued, threading another dandelion stem through her impromptu crown. "But I think you chose to be here. I think you chose to be my friend." The accuracy of her statement would have startled anyone who could understand Rex's thoughts. He had indeed chosen Emma, though the reasons were complex even for his canine intelligence. There was something about her spirit, brave yet vulnerable, trusting yet cautious, that awakened every protective instinct he possessed. She reminded him of another child years ago, whose memory still haunted his dreams. Rex had once belonged to a family with a daughter named Sarah. She'd been Emma's age when the accident happened. A moment of inattention, a ball rolling into traffic, and Rex's failure to react quickly enough. The guilt had driven him from his home, transforming him into a wanderer until he found Emma. She represented redemption, a chance to fulfill the promise he'd failed to keep before. Emma finished her dandelion crown and placed it carefully on Rex's head, giggling at how the yellow flowers contrasted with his dark fur. "Now you're the king of the park," she declared. "King Rex, protector of all the swings and slides." Her laughter masked the sound of approaching footsteps, but Rex's ears caught every detail. The woman from the parking area was walking toward them, her smile practiced and false. Rex's body tensed as she drew closer, every muscle coiling like a spring. "What a beautiful dog," the woman said, her voice honey-sweet. "Is he yours, sweetie?" Emma looked up, her hand instinctively moving to rest on Rex's back. "He's my friend," she replied carefully, remembering her mother's warnings about talking to strangers. "I have a dog just like him at home," the woman continued, crouching down to Emma's level. "Would you like to see pictures? I have them in my car." Rex felt Emma's small fingers tighten in his fur, and he read the subtle signs of her growing discomfort. Her breathing had quickened slightly, and she'd unconsciously shifted closer to him. The child's intuition was sound. This woman represented danger. "My mom says I shouldn't go to cars with people I don't know," Emma said politely but firmly. The woman's smile faltered for just a moment before returning, more forced than before. "Of course, your mother is very smart, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you just looked at pictures. My car is right over there." Rex rose to his feet slowly, his movements deliberate and threatening. The dandelion crown fell forgotten to the grass as he positioned himself between Emma and the stranger. His golden eyes locked onto the woman's face, and she took an involuntary step backward. "I think I should go home now," Emma announced, her voice steady despite the fear Rex could smell on her skin. "Come on, Rex." As they walked away, Rex's heightened senses caught fragments of a phone conversation behind them. The woman was speaking in urgent, clipped sentences about the girl and tonight and the original plan. Rex's heart rate accelerated as the pieces of a larger puzzle began falling into place. Emma sensed his tension and slipped her small hand around his neck as they reached the park's edge. "She was scary, wasn't she?" she whispered. "But you were there. You're always there when I need you." Rex nuzzled her cheek gently, a gesture of both comfort and promise. He would indeed always be there, especially now that he understood the true nature of the threat they faced. The Watchers had revealed themselves, and their intentions were becoming clear. Tonight would bring darkness, and with it, a test of the bond they'd forged in sunshine and trust. Emma's bedroom window faced Maple Grove Park, a view that had delighted her parents when they'd chosen the house but now filled Rex with strategic advantage as he patrolled the narrow alley between properties. The autumn night was unseasonably warm, with a thick cloud cover that blocked both moon and stars, creating the perfect camouflage for those who preferred to work in darkness. Rex had positioned himself in the Hartwells' backyard after following Emma home from the park that afternoon. His instincts, honed by years of survival and sharpened by recent observations, told him that tonight would bring the confrontation he'd been anticipating. The stranger's behavior patterns, their coordinated surveillance, and the woman's brazen approach to Emma all pointed to an escalation that would come under cover of darkness. Inside the house, Emma was finishing her bedtime routine, visible through her window as she brushed her teeth and argued with her mother about reading just one more chapter before lights out. Rex could hear fragments of their conversation through the thin walls, Emma's voice bright with the innocent expectation that tomorrow would be just another day of swings and dandelions and games. Mrs. Hartwell tucked Emma into bed at precisely 9 o'clock, just as she had every night since they'd moved to the neighborhood. Rex had memorized their routine. Story time until 9:15, final hugs and good nights, then the gradual dimming of lights throughout the house as the family settled into sleep. By 10:30, only the faint glow of Mr. Hartwell's reading lamp would remain visible from the master bedroom. Tonight, however, Rex noticed differences in the surrounding environment that set his nerves on edge. A van had parked 3 blocks away, its occupants invisible behind tinted windows but its engine running despite the late hour. The usual symphony of neighborhood sounds, televisions, air conditioners, the distant hum of traffic, seemed muted, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation. Rex settled into his chosen position beneath the large rhododendron bush, beside Emma's window, his dark coat blending seamlessly with the shadows. From here, he could monitor both the front and back approaches to the house while maintaining a clear line of sight to Emma's room. His powerful legs were coiled and ready, his senses operating at maximum alertness. The first sign of trouble came at 11:47, when Rex detected the subtle sound of car doors closing several streets away. The sounds were muffled, deliberate, people trying to move quietly through the night. His ears swiveled like radar dishes, tracking multiple sets of footsteps as they approached through different routes, converging on the Hartwell house with military precision. Rex's lip curled in a silent snarl as he recognized the scents from the park, the man with the newspaper and the blonde woman, now accompanied by at least 2 others. They moved with practiced coordination, communicating through hand signals and positioning themselves around the house's perimeter. This wasn't an impulsive crime of opportunity. It was a carefully planned operation. The blonde woman appeared first, emerging from behind the neighbor's garden shed with a small backpack slung over her shoulder. She moved directly toward Emma's window, producing what looked like a glass cutter from her kit. Rex's muscles bunched as he calculated distances and angles, his mind running through attack scenarios with lethal precision. Emma stirred in her sleep, perhaps sensing the malevolent presence gathering outside her sanctuary. She rolled over in her bed, one small hand reaching unconsciously toward the window where Rex waited in the darkness. The gesture was so trusting, so innocent, that it nearly broke his heart, while simultaneously strengthening his resolve. The woman had begun working on the window when the man from the park materialized near the front door, his lock-picking tools glinting in the faint streetlight. A third figure, tall, heavy-set with nervous energy that Rex could smell from 20 yards away, took position by the side gate, clearly serving as a lookout. The coordination was professional, suggesting experience and planning that went far beyond a simple child abduction. Rex forced himself to remain motionless as the woman's glass cutter traced a careful circle in Emma's window. Every instinct screamed at him to attack immediately, but he knew timing would be crucial. He had to wait until they were committed to their crime, unable to retreat quickly, before he could make his move effectively. The sound of glass being carefully removed sent adrenaline surging through Rex's system. The woman was reaching through the opening now, her fingers searching for the window latch. In 30 seconds, she would have access to Emma's room. In 60 seconds, she could have the child in her arms. Rex's golden eyes never blinked as he watched the woman's hand find the latch. The metallic click of the mechanism disengaging sounded like a gunshot in the quiet night. Emma's window slid open with barely a whisper, and cool air rushed into her bedroom, causing her to pull her blankets higher in her sleep. The woman was lifting one leg over the windowsill when Rex made his decision. The time for watching was over. The moment for action had arrived, and with it the ultimate test of the promise he'd made to protect Emma at any cost. His powerful hindquarters coiled like springs as he prepared to launch himself from the shadows into a battle that would determine whether evil would triumph in the darkness, or whether love and loyalty would prove stronger than careful planning and criminal intent. Rex exploded from the shadows with the devastating force of 80 pounds of muscle and fury, his powerful jaws clamping down on the intruder's wrist, just as she swung her second leg over Emma's windowsill. The woman's scream shattered the nights, silence echoing through the suburban neighborhood like a siren of justice finally unleashed. The blonde woman tried to wrench her arm free, but Rex's grip was unbreakable, his teeth locked around her wrist with precise pressure, enough to incapacitate without causing permanent damage, but sufficient to communicate the seriousness of his intent. She stumbled backward, pulling Rex halfway through the window opening as Emma bolted upright in her bed, her eyes wide with confusion and terror. "Rex!" Emma's voice cracked with fear and relief simultaneously as she recognized her protector in the chaos. The sound of her distress triggered something primal in Rex's consciousness, a rage so pure and protective that it transcended his usual calculated responses. The man with the lockpicks abandoned his work at the front door and sprinted toward the commotion, producing a taser from his jacket. But Rex had anticipated backup and released the woman's wrist just long enough to spin and face the new threat. His lips pulled back to reveal teeth that gleamed white and dangerous in the darkness. "Emma, get away from the window." Mrs. Hartwell's voice cut through the night as lights blazed on throughout the house. Rex could hear Mr. Hartwell's heavy footsteps pounding down the hallway, but the sound seemed distant compared to the immediate threat circling him in the backyard. The woman clutched her injured wrist against her chest, her professional composure shattered by pain and shock. "Kill the damn dog," she hissed at her partner, but the man hesitated, clearly unprepared for armed resistance from a four-legged guardian. Rex positioned himself directly below Emma's window, his powerful body creating an impenetrable barrier between the criminals and their intended victim. His golden eyes tracked both threats simultaneously, while his ears monitored the approaching footsteps of Emma's parents. Every calculation in his canine brain focused on a single objective: hold the line until help arrived. The third man, the lookout, came running from his position by the gate, brandishing what looked like a tranquilizer gun. Rex recognized the weapon's purpose and knew that a single dart would end his ability to protect Emma. Without hesitation, he launched himself at the newcomer, covering the distance in 3 powerful bounds that demonstrated the deadly grace of a predator in his element. The tranquilizer gun fired harmlessly into the air as Rex's momentum carried both him and the lookout to the ground in a tangle of limbs and desperate struggle. The man tried to roll away, but Rex's training and instincts kept him pinned. 65 million years of canine evolution focused into this single moment of protective fury. "Rex, behind you." Emma's warning came just in time as the first man lunged forward with his taser, the electrical weapon crackling with blue sparks. Rex released his current opponent and spun to face the new attack, his movements fluid despite the chaos surrounding him. The taser's prongs flew past Rex's shoulder as he twisted away, his combat instincts operating with supernatural precision. He could hear police sirens in the distance now. Mrs. Hartwell must have called 911. But the cavalry was still minutes away, and the criminals were growing increasingly desperate. The blonde woman had recovered enough to climb back through Emma's window, her injured wrist forgotten in her desperation to complete their mission. Rex saw her disappearing into Emma's bedroom and felt a cold terror, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. His previous failure, the memory of Sarah's accident, merged with the present crisis to create a moment of perfect clarity. With a growl that seemed to come from the depths of his soul, Rex abandoned his engagement with the men in the yard and leaped directly through Emma's window, his powerful body crashing through the opening like a furry missile launched by love and determination. Emma had pressed herself against her bedroom door, her small hands fumbling with the lock as the woman advanced toward her. "Stay away!" Emma shouted with surprising courage, her voice strong despite her obvious terror. "Rex will stop you." The woman smiled coldly, her confidence returning now that she was inside the house. "Your dog can't help you now, little girl. We're going for a ride." But Rex was already there, materializing between Emma and the woman like an avenging angel wrapped in golden fur. His presence filled the small bedroom with protective energy, so powerful that even the experienced criminal took an involuntary step backward. "Get away from her," Rex's posture seemed to say, though his actual communication was far more primitive and infinitely more threatening. This was no longer about strategy or calculation. This was about the fundamental bond between protector and protected, and Rex would die before allowing it to be broken. The woman reached for Emma again, and Rex's world narrowed to a single, crystalline moment of absolute purpose. Every moment of his life had led to this instant, every loss and regret transformed into fuel for the fight that would determine Emma's fate and his own redemption. His leap toward the intruder was poetry, written in motion, justice delivered on wings of loyalty and love. The bedroom erupted into chaos as Rex's powerful form collided with the intruder, sending both of them crashing into Emma's dresser. Picture frames and trinkets scattered across the floor as the woman fought desperately to escape the dog's protective fury. Rex's training and instincts merged into a perfect storm of controlled aggression. He pinned her against the wall without causing serious injury, his massive paws planted firmly on her shoulders, while his golden eyes burned with unwavering determination. Emma's bedroom door burst open as her parents rushed in, Mr. Hartwell wielding a baseball bat while Mrs. Hartwell immediately swept their daughter into protective arms. The scene before them was both terrifying and magnificent. Their neighborhood guardian dog had become a living shield between their child and unthinkable danger. "The police are coming," Mrs. Hartwell announced breathlessly, her voice shaking with relief and residual fear. Through the chaos, she could hear the sirens growing louder, accompanied by the sound of car doors slamming and authoritative voices shouting commands in the front yard. The blonde woman had stopped struggling against Rex's hold, her earlier confidence completely shattered. The coordinated kidnapping attempt had devolved into a nightmare of barking dogs, screaming children, and approaching law enforcement. Her partners in the backyard were already in custody, their tranquilizer guns and professional equipment serving as evidence of premeditated crime. Rex maintained his position until the first police officer appeared in Emma's doorway, weapon drawn, but quickly lowered when the situation became clear. The dog's intelligence shone through as he immediately stepped back from the intruder, his job complete now that official help had arrived. His golden eyes found Emma across the room, and the relief in that gaze was unmistakably human in its depth and emotion. "You're okay, baby?" Mrs. Hartwell whispered into Emma's hair, her own tears mixing with her daughter's as the full scope of what had almost happened began to sink in. "Rex kept you safe. Rex saved you." Emma pulled away from her mother's embrace, just enough to look at her canine protector, her 7-year-old mind struggling to process the magnitude of what had occurred. "He really is a superhero," she said with absolute conviction, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her cheeks. The investigation that followed revealed the disturbing sophistication of the kidnapping plot. The criminals were part of an organized network that had been targeting children in suburban neighborhoods for months, using careful surveillance and professional techniques to avoid detection. Emma had been selected randomly, chosen simply because her routine was predictable and her house seemed accessible. But they hadn't counted on Rex. Detective Sarah Martinez, the lead investigator, found herself particularly intrigued by the dog's role in preventing the crime. "In 20 years of police work, I've never seen anything like this," she told the Hartwells 3 days later as they sat in their living room, Emma curled up against Rex's side on the couch. This dog didn't just react to danger. He anticipated it, planned for it, and executed a defensive strategy that would make professional security teams proud. The neighborhood had embraced Rex as a genuine hero, with families bringing food and toys to thank him for his protection. But perhaps more importantly, The incident had revealed something profound about the bonds that could form between humans and animals when trust and love intersected with genuine need. Emma's school counselor had worried about trauma from the attempted kidnapping, but the 7-year-old seemed remarkably resilient. "I wasn't really scared," she explained during one session, her small hand resting on Rex's head as he lay beside her chair. "I knew Rex would keep me safe. He promised, even though he can't talk." The Hartwells had officially adopted Rex within a week, though the paperwork seemed almost insulting given what they'd already shared. He had his own bed now, his own food bowls, and a collar with his name engraved alongside the family's phone number. But more than that, he had something he'd been searching for since Sarah's accident years ago: the chance to fulfill his promise to protect. On quiet evenings, when Emma fell asleep reading in her bed, Rex would position himself by her window, not watching for danger now, but simply enjoying the peaceful breathing of a child who trusted him completely. The guilt that had driven him from his first home had finally been replaced by something stronger: the knowledge that love and loyalty could indeed triumph over the darkness that sometimes threatened innocence. The dandelion crowns Emma made for him now were received with dignity befitting a true king of the park, and when she whispered her secrets into his fur during their afternoon adventures, Rex listened with the gravity of a guardian who understood that some promises were worth a lifetime of devotion. In the end, they had saved each other: the girl, who needed protection, and the dog who needed redemption. Their story became neighborhood legend, a reminder that heroes sometimes come with 4 legs and golden eyes, and that the strongest bonds are forged not in moments of peace, but in the crucible of love tested by danger and proven unbreakable.